Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for those of you that are already jumping on live. We so appreciate you. This is another episode of Her Version. This Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Brenda. Bourns. Brenda is a live event producer, sports marketer, entrepreneur, and prides herself in creating real leaders in today's ever-evolving world. Brenda is here to tell a crazy story about how she suddenly lost her right eye one night while walking her dog, and how that one incident changed the trajectory of her life. The definition of the word challenge and the word struggle shifted, and she had to make a decision as to how she was going to handle the shift with her husband and her family. We are here to talk about what healing can look like and the joys of riding a tandem bicycle. Welcome, Brenda. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yes, I had to add in that tandem bike because I had never been on a tandem bike.
So fun. It's so fun.
And I always kind of secretly wonder what it's like to be on a tandem bike, especially if you're on the back and you don't have to do as much work.
It's so great. It's so great. I wasn't sure after the accident, how my depth perception and peripheral vision and all of those things would be. And I saw this gentleman selling a tandem bike, and I'm like, that must be in my garage. I must have that.
Must have. Have you been on a regular bike since?
No.
Like now? Really?
No. So I think because my accident happened at the height of the pandemic, being outdoors was something that everyone was really looking to do. And I just thought, I can't have family or friends really come visit me at my home. We were under quarantine. It was really crazy rules at that time. So, but we can put on helmets and we can get on a tandem bike and have conversations and cycle around and get some exercise and laugh. And it was completely freeing. I absolutely love it.
Yes, that's awesome. Very, very cool. I'd love to see a picture of you on your tandem bike.
I'll get you one.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, I would love to kind of just start out just diving into this crazy story that I got a little tidbit of. I try not to let people tell like their whole story because I like to be, in the moment while you're telling it. But I'm so excited to just kind of hear, how this happened and the timeline of everything, and then we'll kind of jump into some more questions. Is that cool?
Sure, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So August 1st, our family are huge hockey fans. We're Canadian. That's what we do. We watch hockey. And our hometown Winnipeg Jets had just lost 4-1 in a playoff game. It was just before midnight, and I thought, I'm just going to take the dog, just do her business. It's beautiful out, full moon, literally going to just walk 2 blocks. On our way back to the house, I literally stopped and took a picture of this beautiful full moon. And now I'm about 30 feet from my front yard. Okay. And a little something, at the time I didn't know if it was a rabbit or a squirrel, scooted past our feet. My dog, she's just being a dog, and she reacted. And I fell to my knees and hit my face on the ground and really just was like, did I just lose my chiclets? Like, are my teeth all still there? Like, I hit it really hard. And then my dog lunged forward and I was literally about half a foot, maybe a foot away from the base of my neighbor's tree. And I hit this side of my face with such impact that it rocked me back. And I was on the front lawn, completely stunned. My head felt like an accordion, and I didn't really know what had happened. And I'm also a type 2 diabetic. So when a diabetic goes into shock, when they experience trauma, they go into something called diabetes ketoacidosis. So to give you just a little bit of a framework, for a type 2 diabetic, or for a diabetic, having your sugars between 5 and 7, they call diabetic heaven. I was at 38, which I found out afterwards when I was at the hospital. So I'm now on the ground and I'm looking around and I'm looking at all my neighbors' houses. All the lights are on because they're watching the post-game show. You know, the game had literally just ended. My husband had gone to sleep. And I'm on the ground and I had this cognitive thought in my head, Brenda, you're in trouble. And trigger warning, but it's the honest truth. It was the heat of the blood and tasting it in my mouth that kind of jolted me. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like I've got to get home. And so I was calling out, but I was really weak. I now couldn't feel my legs. And that's when I realized like I just couldn't up and walk home. And so I'm a live event producer. I deal with chaos all the time. I've got to be the calmest person in the room. And I just really had these thoughts of, I've got to be super calm. And I put my hand on my dog's collar and tucked her under my arm. Now she's about 70 pounds. And then we call my husband Daddy. I was like, take me to Daddy. Let's go see Daddy. Okay, take me home. Harley, take me home. And she knew instantly, as soon as I hit the tree and I was bleeding, I was kind of in and out. And she kept coming back and nudging me awake, right? Like
wow.
She knew. She dragged me home.
Wow.
Across my neighbor's lawn, across our lawn, up the stairs, and barked until my husband came to the door.
Wow.
And there's something about a survivor's instinct, but there's also a mother's instinct. And for me, my daughter was at a socially distanced bonfire, and I knew she was going to be home at 1 a.m. There was no way that my daughter is coming upon a scene where her mother has a dog wrapped around, like a leash wrapped around her wrist, and I'm covered in blood on the neighbor's lawn. Like that's not happening. And this was my big driver. I just kept saying, Taya can't find me like this. Like I've got to get home. And did I know that my eye was broken? No. I played a lot of sports in my life. And, when you take a hit or you hurt yourself, I just thought maybe there was, blood behind my eye, that I've injured my eye, but I didn't think I had lost it. We get home, my husband comes to the door, and it looks like a crime scene. Like I'm covered in blood, the dog's covered in blood, the front steps are covered in blood, and he's just like, what is going on? And I'm like, just get me some ice. Like, that's all I could say was get me some ice. And I made my way to the bathroom and I took a picture because I couldn't see anything. So I took a picture on my cell phone and then I expanded it and I'm looking to see, like, what have I done? Like, what happened? And then I wasn't thinking properly, but I sent a picture to my daughter with a voice memo saying, accident, come home. Because I knew she was going to be home in an hour and we were going to be gone. And I didn't want her coming upon a scene where we're gone and there's just blood all over. And she, right? Like I wasn't really thinking properly. And so, she's at this bonfire. She gets this message. She's like, I know I just got here, but I got to go home now. And raced home, but we were already gone to the hospital. Now, I had surgery on this eye 2 years prior. The eye hospital in our community is 4 minutes from our house.
Wow.
There wasn't the thought to call an ambulance. It was like, just get in the vehicle and go to the hospital. So we pull in there, and it used to be a full hospital before it became urgent care for eyes. And they made a call and they said, oh, you need a scan. And our scanner has gone home. It's the August long weekend in Canada. They left at 11:30 and I rolled in there just after midnight. And so they're like, you need to go to the other hospital. But I guess the biggest error is they didn't call an ambulance for me to take me to the nearest hospital. And my husband's like, St. Boniface? We should have gone to Health Sciences Center, but he said, St. Boniface? And they're like, yes. We got into the car and drove. My husband was driving like a maniac and I was holding my eyeball in. And we pull up to the hospital emergency and the nurse there's like, where did you come from? And we said, oh, the other hospital. She's like, okay, that's not proper protocol. Like, but I think everyone was kind of a bit of a panic and it was COVID and she said, by the way, sorry, husband, you can't come in. It's
wow. COVID. Yeah.
So in the wheelchair, go get the scans. My husband calls at 6 a.m. and he says, I dropped my wife off. I'm just curious how she is. Just want to touch base. They're like, go into the computer. Oh, she's not here. She's been taken back to the other hospital. He's like, what? Was somebody going to let me know?
Wait, so they scanned your eye and then sent you back?
They did the brain head scan because they needed to know what they were looking and dealing with. And then they sent me back by ambulance to the eye hospital.
Wow.
But they hadn't contacted my family because it was happening at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But because we live 4 minutes from that other hospital, literally my husband called St. B at 6 and he was at my bedside by 6:10.
Wow.
And he didn't care if there was COVID. He was we were talking to the surgeons and they said, we actually can't put you under surgery yet because your sugars are too high. It's too dangerous. So we need to bring your sugars down. And then Randy was sent home. They called him half an hour into my surgery and they said, we're sorry. We're 99% sure that we can't save her eye.
Wow.
We need your consent to remove it.
Wow.
My husband was beyond devastated.
Yeah.
And he said, well, what are the options? And they said, typically when we see this kind of injury, we would go through and make sure that everything's in the right order, like your lens, et cetera, et cetera. And we would literally sew up the eye, let you heal for 6 weeks, and then you can come back. We'll take everything out and perhaps we can get your sight back. They're like, but we are 99% sure, but we'll sew her up if you want us to explain this to her. And he said, I don't want my wife coming home and healing, knowing that she has to give up her eye in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You guys are professionals. If you feel it's 99%, just take out the eye and we'll deal with it, which was the absolute right decision.
Wow.
So I come to, and my husband is beside himself. He can't stop crying. And then I found myself taking care of him. I'm like, it's okay. I'll be okay. Like, I was really in this mode of, okay, this is my new reality and I'm just going to figure it out.
Wow.
And within maybe 40 minutes of my injury or me coming to, I was back in another ambulance saying goodbye to my family. Now I had to go back to that other hospital because they had to deal with the diabetes ketoacidosis.
Wow.
And so it was a journey for sure. I don't recommend losing an eye during a pandemic.
Yes.
I was I don't know. I know one thing for certain, that I was raised by a strong woman. And I think that we are all our life experiences teach us how to deal with certain things.
Yeah.
And I've never once had the pity party. I have never once cried over the loss of my eye. I went into this mode of, okay, I just have to train and I have to practice and I have to, like, I'm the world's worst cook. Let's just be honest. I can't cook. I can't bake. What did I do after my injury? I wanted to practice fine motor skills to get this eye stronger. I'm baking, I'm measuring, but anyways, I'd make waffles. I was trying things all the time because it was my goal to live a very full life. Within 2 weeks of my accident, I was back out jogging 5K with my dog and, sporting my patch, and I would look at the mud or the gravel or the leaves in the fall and just try to understand how monocular vision works and how do I adjust to just seeing out of one eye. And it is very, very different. It's very, very, very different.
What's the difference? Tell me.
So, well, for one, I'll never be able to watch a 3D movie. Wanted to go see 3D Spider-Man. 3D doesn't work for people with one eye. It doesn't work, right? So for me, visually, there are stops where like I can't see peripherally. So when you're driving, you're doing the full turn. When you are like, I can't even tell you how many times I've smacked the shoulder into walls by accident, just walking like, I misjudged that. Or when you're pouring your coffee, everything looks very different. So it takes some adjustment. Now, I injured myself at the height of the pandemic. We were all under quarantine. So I haven't gotten back to driving yet because where I live, it's very harsh winters. And I just thought, I don't want to relearn how to drive in a Winnipeg winter.
Yeah.
With depth perception and peripheral vision issues, right?
Yeah.
And then it became summer and spring, but my husband and daughter would just kind of drive me around, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. But now we've now gone through a second winter, and I'm like, okay, I've really been doing my practicing. I'm really challenging myself. I'm playing pickleball. I'm doing things that get me back into normalcy for Brenda. I was a very active person, playing sports and very active, and I can't see myself not being active. I've gone golfing. Let me tell you, I hit the ball way better with one eye than I ever did with two. So that whole thing about keep your eye on the ball, that's a true thing. I tried hitting a softball. I could do that. So every day I was trying to challenge myself to get back to a vibrant life. Yeah. That's why I bought the tandem bike. Yes. And shortly after my injury, my daughter overheard my husband and I talking about insurance. Now, we have every insurance. We had the eyes, the dental, the health insurance. Our dogs got insurance. We got the car insurance, the fire insurance, the critical illness insurance. But the insurance that we have only covers you for full blindness. It doesn't cover you for loss of one eye.
Oh my gosh.
So check your policies, everybody. So my daughter, who was 18 at the time, overheard my husband and I talking about this because we hadn't heard back from the insurance yet. And unbeknownst to us, she goes and sets up a GoFundMe page. I find out 2 days later when my son's girlfriend comes over and she's like, "Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?" I'm like, "What's amazing?" I look over at my daughter. She's sitting on the other end of the couch. She starts sobbing. She's bawling. Yeah. "Mom, I don't want you to be mad. Don't be mad. Don't be mad. But I set up a GoFundMe page." I'm like, "Taya, I don't need a GoFundMe page. Like, I think of GoFundMe pages for people that are paraplegic or like, I'm like, Taya, I'm going to be fine. I overheard you and Dad. You were talking about you don't know about the insurance. You always taught me to have a contingency plan.
I love it.
My mom is getting an eyeball."
Oh, I love it.
I didn't have any words because I'm like, well, she's right. As an event producer, I always have contingency A, B, and C. I always have a contingency plan. Oh my goodness. And so I was so overwhelmed by the generosity of vendors and entertainers and friends and neighbors and people I haven't talked to and complete strangers that were donating to this GoFundMe. She literally went onto a website, typed in prosthetic eyes, did the conversion from American to Canadian, and put up a GoFundMe to cover the cost of my eye.
Wow.
And so I do have a very beautiful prosthetic that I'm going to share with you. So,
wow.
It is, I think that they did a really amazing job because it's very much close to the same color. Now, this side of my face sits a little bit, because it's been pushed in.
Yes.
A little bit smaller, but everybody has a smaller eye. And often people can't really tell. If I don't tell them or they don't know my story, they might not recognize, except if I go this, because it might not track properly. But as I was standing there and being fitted for my prosthetic and going through that process, which was so incredibly fascinating to me, where they pour something like a silicone into your eye socket. They take the exact space,
Wow.
create a prosthetic eye, and then somebody hand paints it to match my other eye. And so while he's hand painting, I'm like, do you take requests? He's like, what have you got in mind? I'm like, well, I played a lot of sports in my life. My nickname growing up, because my initials are BB, my nickname growing up was B. I said, I don't have a tattoo on my body, but can you put one on my eyeball?
Wow.
You won't be able to see it, or you might be able to if I get really close to the camera. There is a little, oh no, you won't be able to see it. I'm going in the wrong direction. There's a little.
I do. I see a little dot. I see it.
It's actually a little bumblebee tattoo on the prosthetic. And I thought, if I have to give up my incredibly badass patch, I need something equally as cool. Now, it's supposed to sit in the bottom corner where no one would see it. But I think because my face is still healing, I just tell people I have a busy bee. It just floats around and it kind of sits in this corner. It's very funny. But
wow.
I don't take myself too seriously.
Wow.
I really don't. And I just.
How does it make it so that it's moving around? Like how come it's not just like steady?
Well,
how come it's going like this?
Interesting question. And so something that I learned is that after they took out my eye, which is called full enucleation, the surgeon makes a ball of muscle. And attached to that ball of muscle, there's like 4 little points that he puts on it. So when this scleral shell sits over top, it will track like a normal eye. It's amazing. So behind this scleral shell, I have a round piece of muscle, just like a ball with little points on it, and the scleral shell sits on top and will track. So, but because my bee's not in the right spot right now, it's supposed to be down in this corner, but he likes to sit here. And my face is still healing. My eye doesn't track properly. So I know when I'm on podcasts or when I'm talking to people, and if I look in one direction, that this eye is not tracking like the other eye. I know because I've caught it on film, and I think it's absolutely hilarious. But I think eventually, as my face heals more, that my bee will sit quietly in the corner or in the bottom where people won't know that it's there. But I think even when I'm talking with people, they might just think it's like a little bit of mascara or something like
yeah.
I did do one podcast, and this one lady was so fascinated. She goes, can you show us your eye? I'm like, you really want to see my eye? So I closed my eye. I can take out, it's very simple. And I put it up to the thing, and she got to see it up close. And she just thought this was the most amazing thing, because people think it's very funny that there's a tattoo on my eye. But some people misunderstand and actually think that I got an eye transplant and that I asked someone to tattoo my eye. I said, oh, I'm crazy, but I'm not, I'm not that crazy.
Wow.
So it's very.
So how long can you keep it in? Can you keep it in all day?
I don't take it out.
You don't take it out?
No, I take it out to clean it, but I sleep with it. It's in, but it's very easy to take out. I take it in and out constantly to clean it, or sometimes maybe some dust gets behind there, or maybe I'm out at the beach and it's sandy and some sand blows my eye. You need to know how to take it out. It was so funny because when the ocularist inserted my eye for the first time, they give you this little tube that has a suction on it, so you can actually suction the eye to take it out. And he goes, but you don't need to take it out. Like when you come back in 6 months for a cleaning, we'll show you how to do that. Sabrina, I wasn't home for 3.2 seconds. I'm like, oh, I figured it out.
Really?
Like, I want to know how to take out my eye. This is my eye. It's like, I want to know how to do it. So yeah, I'm going to be honest. No broken eyeball is going to slow Brenda Bourns down. I will readjust. I will learn. I will try things. And I think from many, many years of playing sports, I'm competitive with myself. So things that I used to be able to do, I will continue to challenge myself to do again.
Yeah.
That's.
I love that. So, but I want to ask though, so like, I get it. But what was like the biggest challenge? Was there a challenge that you had? to?
I think one of the biggest,
Kind of like mentally, emotionally, with your friends, with your husband, with your daughter.
okay, I'm going to tell you a quick story.
Okay.
My face, as it was healing, started to do the jig because certain muscles weren't, like something was off. And so my face, if I smile a certain way right now, it'll, yeah. So it was doing this.
Wow.
And it won't slow down until I kind of comment with my hand. So I went to my surgeon. Well, first I called my girlfriend who happened to work for my surgeon. And I woke up and my face was doing this, but much more violently than that. That was just a little trigger. It was shaking like it was doing the jig. And I had my daughter take a videotape of it and call my girlfriend Shelly, because she works literally for the gentleman that took out my eye surgeon. I said, can you call Shelly and just show her this? And so Taya calls and say, Shelly, my mom's face is like really jiggling. And she's like, oh, it's okay. Did she drink coffee? And she's like, Mom, did you drink coffee? I'm like, no. She's like, is she stressed? Sometimes when you're stressed, your eyelash will flutter. And you know how that is when you're really tired, and sometimes your eye just starts fluttering. And she's like, yeah, it might be a little bit of a flutter. And she goes, well, maybe your mom's just stressed. And it's okay. This is normal. So Taya gets off the phone and she turns to me and my husband and she's like, Mom, are you stressed? I'm like, no. Actually, yes, you two are stressing me out because you have turned into Babas. I'm super independent. I want to put you on a one-way ticket to Nipawa, which is a town about an hour and a half outside of Winnipeg. I'm like, you guys, I don't need you to jump. I don't need you to get me water. I don't need you to run into the bathroom to get toilet paper to hand it to me. Like, I will figure it out. I need you to just love me a little bit less because you're so.
Wow.
I had no idea that I was out jogging with the dog for 2 weeks. They had no idea. 2 weeks after the accident, I'm out walking and jogging with the dog. And then I would go on Facebook Live and thank people I came back to Facebook to thank people for their support of my eye. And so anytime I said, I'm going to show you my world through my lens, and I hashtagged it community eyeball, because I said it was their eyeball, like that I'm just wearing it, but they helped gift it to us. And then I just kind of went back into things that I do. When my family finally found out that I was out jogging every morning, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm not telling you. There's lots of things I'm doing that you don't know that I'm doing. I just needed that. I'm super independent. And it's really hard to have people doing and I know it was out of love, but I was like, let me find my way. Let me trip on the stair. Let me, pour hot coffee on my hand. I'll figure it out. I will figure it out. So that was probably the biggest challenge for me. And another thing is I felt very, very grateful because I got introduced to a page on Facebook called One-Eyed Support Group for a whole bunch of people that have lost their eye, whether it was from cancer, whether they were in India and somebody threw acid in their face, whether there's so many different, a BB gun accident. And I was like, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for the incredible medical care that I have. And I felt almost a little bit of guilt. So I had to get off that page for a bit because there were people that were in a really, really dark place. And I didn't experience that. I didn't have that darkness. And then I felt guilty that not everybody gets the support group that I had received. Not everybody has that. And so I just wanted to share my story. And if I can inspire anybody, I know that some of my friends were really, really struggling during COVID. And they would send me notes and they'd say, I was having such a bad day and I logged onto Facebook and I saw you out jogging at the river with your dog. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I worried about? Brenda just lost an eye. She's out jogging, having a great day. Some of my friends would just say, I love logging in and just feeling your positivity. And I'm like, oh, you don't wake up in the morning going, I'm going to inspire people. I was just being me and just taking every day as a challenge. And if people found that inspirational, then I'm happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Where do you think that comes from? Because I too was in the hospital during COVID, October. I broke my leg. But I now, for the first time ever, and I consider myself a very optimistic go-getter, but I still, that was 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now, get bouts of anxiety driving when someone else is driving, when I'm not in control, or even just walking. I find myself like when I accidentally trip, just like in life, just trip, the like rush inside me is like so much exaggerated than it would have been other than that.
Right.
So do you think that there, like, do you contribute that to anything, like upbringing, something that happened in your past, or maybe it's the competitiveness and you've put yourself in?
Oh, for sure. I'm super competitive.
So where did you play
in sports? Yes, I'm competitive in sports.
What do you play?
Oh, I've literally played every sport under the sun. Everything from rugby to women's tackle football when I was 50 years old, to I've boxed, I've rowed, I've been fastball, hockey. Did I say rugby? You name it, I've tried it. Skydiving. I'll do anything once and twice if I like it. So I lived a very fast-paced, energetic life. And I think when you're competitive with yourself, I mean, I'm competitive with others, but it's always, I'm 53 now. So yes, I did do boxing and it was just so awesome. It was for a charity event. We trained 6 days a week, 3 hours a day. And it was like, bam, bam, I love it. It was so fun. And it was an incredible workout. And I thought that boxing was the hardest thing I'd ever tried until I played rugby. Then it was rugby. And then until I played women's tackle football. Because that's rugby carrying 40 pounds of gear. And it was just so much fun. So I'm always constantly challenging myself. And I think that sports mindset of wanting to improve and to do better. I'm 4'11", you guys. I'm hardly a threat, but I would love when I'm up at the plate and somebody is like, oh yeah, we're going to get her. Because I'm going to crank it and it's going to be a chick burn because I'm going to get a stand-up triple or a home run because you're standing right behind the shortstop. And all my life it's been like that. And then I would play right field and all the guys would adjust. I used to play co-ed fastball. They would adjust because they're going to hit to the girl in right field. I'm like, that's fine. Because if I don't run it down and catch it, I'm going to throw you out at 2. So I was always very competitive with myself and with the teams that I played with, but in a healthy competition. And I can honestly say the internal drive to be better and to challenge myself is a huge driver. But the calmness of dealing in such chaotic live production events, like I have done some of the biggest events in Canada, from the FIFA championships to World Junior Hockey. I've done the NHL All-Star Game, Pan Am Games. It's a lot of chaos in that broadcast booth, and you have to be the calmest person in the room. Yeah. And so I think that 30 years of doing very high level professional sports has given me the tools to remain calm, but I still have that internal drive to be the best that I can be.
100%. Yeah. Wow. So it's almost as if you have trained yourself to the point of fully trusting yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I knew that this was not going to slow me down.
Yeah.
This is not going to, yes, it's going to change a few things, but, restrictions have just been lifted in our city 3 weeks ago. The mask mandate was literally 3 weeks ago. My industry, doing arena and stadium size events and huge festivals and rock concerts and things like that, we were the first industry to close. We will be the last to open up again. It's a little bit different in the States and in other places of the world. But in Canada, things were shut right down.
Yeah.
Which was almost a blessing for me because it gave me time to heal. And now I'm back in my game, right? Yes. So now things are starting to have a little bit more normalcy and I'm feeling really great. So I look forward to new opportunities and challenges and, doing what I do best.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, that kind of gives me a little bit of hope then. So it's just, I mean, if I was going to use your example there, um, putting myself in situations where I'm forced to trust myself almost purposely, kind of like what you're doing with cooking and baking and stuff, as your
I'm not
first
good at it.
little trial and errors there, to kind of get that back and lessen all of that anxiety that continues to creep up still. It's crazy.
Yeah, if my best friend lives in Florida,
Yeah.
and one of her son's teammates was playing baseball, and the ball went back and hit his dad in the eye, and his dad lost his eye. So when she saw that my daughter set up this GoFundMe page, she shared it on her Facebook page. And her neighbor, the wife of this gentleman who lost his eye, said, "Would you like my husband to talk to your friend?" And my girlfriend Lynn was like, "No, you told me your husband was in the basement for 2 years. We're good." Brenda's out jogging. She's like, "Brenda can talk to your husband." But she's like, "No, Brenda's good." And I think it's a mindset thing. I truly
Yeah.
do. I think that we are all a product of our environment, how we were raised. I was raised by an incredibly strong mother.
Yeah.
And my dad, he was a rock. He was super calm. And I think that, the experiences that I've had, I've always been, I've always been a female in a very male-dominated world.
Yeah.
You grow skills of how to hold your own, how to use your voice, how to communicate, and how to share information. And trust me, I took my hard knocks in the world of business, and I worked for a football club in my city for 8 seasons. And it was like, I learned a lot there that has helped me in business. And I just think that when you have the right framework or the attitude and that mindset, that, you can do whatever you put your mind to. Whatever you put your mind to. And if people are struggling with anxiety, then that's okay. Let's talk about it and let's get some help and let's find some tools that help us get to that place where we find that confidence and we trust our gut and we move forward. And I'm just very grateful that I never had that. I can honestly say that I never experienced anxiety or a sadness for the loss of my eye. I looked at it as a challenge. The only time I cried is a girlfriend came over during the pandemic when we weren't supposed to have anybody in our house. Canada was shut down. You were quarantined. And she came in with flowers and she took one look at me and she started bawling because she couldn't deal with how I looked. And then I felt bad that she felt bad that I looked like this because I was okay with it.
Wow.
So devastated to see me bruised and puffy and scarred. Like, my surgeon has gone back in and redone my facial scar. He wasn't happy with how it looked. There was a little bit of a lip there. I'm like, I'm good. I'm all right. I'll put a little makeup on it. I'm good. He's like, "No, but I'm not good. This is your face.
Yeah.
And I want to fix that for you."
Wow.
"Okay, thank you, doctor." And so he did. But initially, right after the surgery, I was black and blue and green and
Because you hit your chin too, right?
I hit my chin, but then she lunged forward and I hit the tree. And it was really interesting when I talked to my girlfriend, Shelly, and she's like, "Okay, Brenda, so you're going to be in the medical records at the university." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "So normally I lost my orbital floor. If you lose your orbital floor, you often save the eye. Or if you lose the eye, your orbital floor is intact." I hit that tree with such impact that I crushed my cheekbone and lost the eye.
Wow.
So when the pathologist was looking at all the stuff and writing it down, when you look at the words, it's like appears to be, could be, possibly. They'd never seen it before. So it's been, when I say it's been a journey, it's been a journey. But I've learned so much. I've learned to completely appreciate the medical system that we have here. It's not perfect, but it's pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
And I'm so appreciative for the nurses and doctors and just the people that took care of me during that really stressful, surreal time with a global pandemic. And my ocularist, I just think that, that is a talent. And, I'm just very, very grateful. And I do believe that my injury was a gift.
Why do you say that?
I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my family, my friends, and my community. And I learned that I'm way stronger than I thought. And I thought I was kind of strong before. I'm not going to deny. I kind of thought I was a little bit kick-ass before, but I really now feel that I am stronger than I ever believed that I could be.
Wow.
And I think that strength, it's generational. My mother was very strong. I feel that I'm strong, and I feel that my daughter watching me is strong. Clearly, she went and set up a GoFundMe page. I mean, I just think that when you have those internal, what's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes I struggle with words, sometimes maybe a couple of bonks to the head. But when you, that drive, I think it's just that drive. I truly believe it's that drive that nothing's going to slow me down. I will still lead a very vibrant, exciting life. The life that I've led before, working with top athletes and rock stars and royalty and just the things that I've experienced in my live production world. I will continue to do that, and that no injury is going to stop me.
I think that this is a really great testament to, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, including you.
No.
And I don't know if this is going to offend you or not, but there's just hearing just this story, a testament to sheltering / coddling your children too much. Because the only way that you were able to, all those sports that you played are like super aggressive.
I'm not playing ping pong, let's be honest.
They're super aggressive, and this has trained you mentally and emotionally and physically to be able to endure, obviously, a lot more than a normal person could endure. And that's not to say one way is better than the other way, but it is to say, if you want your children to be able to survive anything that comes their way, they have to train for that.
I'm a huge proponent of sports because I think there are so many lessons. I actually have a kinesiology degree. I literally thought that I was going to have a whistle around my neck teaching kids gym, because a gym teacher 1,000,000 years ago changed my life, and I wanted to be a gym teacher.
What was it?
We had moved into a new neighborhood, and my mother is Filipino and my father is British. And we came into this very vanilla part of the city. And I stood out like a sore thumb because I had a brown mother and a white father. Wow. And I got bullied really, really badly. And I had a newborn baby brother, and kids were, I was in grade 3. I didn't even know what the word adopted was. And they were like, "Are you adopted?" I'm like, "What's adopted?" Like, "Mom, what's adopted?" "Oh, you wish you were adopted, Brenda, because adopted children are the most lucky of all because they've been chosen." oh, I want to be adopted, right? Stupid kids. Like, this is why, because my mom was the way that she taught me lessons was in a very interesting way. And so I would get chased home from school, my hair would be pulled, rocks thrown at me, whatever. And then in my physical education class, we had to do something in Canada. It's called the Canada Fitness Testing. Sit-ups, push-ups, 50-meter dash, flexed arm hang, standing long jump. And I was at the top for everything.
Even the long jump?
I was going to say, except the long jump.
Okay.
Okay. So here I am at the long jump. Now I'm only 4'11" now at 53 years of age. Back in grade 3, I was probably all of 2 foot nothing. And we got 3 chances. First jump, short. Second jump, short. Third jump, I look back at the tape, and my gym teacher, and I was like maybe a centimeter short. He lifts up the tape. Congratulations, Brenda has got the award of excellence, which means that you got 100, or that you hit all the marks. So you got a very special badge. Instead of the gold, silver medal, you got this really amazing badge that had special participation on it. I was the only girl in class to get that. I knew that I was a centimeter short, and I looked at him and I was like, that's not right. But all of a sudden, I was swarmed by my classmates. High five and congratulations, and oh my gosh. And instantly I wasn't the last person picked on a team.
Wow.
He changed my life that moment.
Wow.
He changed my life that moment. I was like, I'm going to be a phys ed teacher. I'm going to be a phys ed teacher just like you, because I'm going to do that for other kids.
Wow.
And so that's what I did. I went into university. I got my kinesiology degree. While I was there, I got a job with Gatorade. I can honestly say that Gatorade is still my client 32 years later.
Wow.
And I became very involved in the sports world, sports marketing, sports, supporting sports, anything sports. And because I saw in that moment in grade 3 how I instantly had respect. I was respected because I was fast. I was short, but I was fast and I was strong. Couldn't jump very far. But that 1 centimeter changed my life.
Wow.
And that's why I've been so involved in sports, because I think sports, they teach you lose, win, you have leadership, you have to coordinate, you have to communicate with teammates, you have to listen to and respect to a coach, you have to fundraise. Like, sports teaches you life. To me, sports gives you the opportunity to have tools that will help you in the real world.
100%. Definitely. So you're name dropping all this stuff. Tell us what you do. What's your business? What do you do? I said a little bit in the beginning.
Yes. So I'm a live event producer. And you know, when you watch the Olympics and you see somebody sitting with a whole bunch of screens and they've got a headset on and they're talking into a microphone and they're like calling the shots, that's what I do. And so my website, sadly, I took it down after the injury because I didn't want people reaching out to me, and I wasn't even online for a year and a half. It's like, I don't want them, I just took down my website. I'm like, when I'm ready and when I feel up to it, I will connect back with people on LinkedIn or whatever. And I'm just going to take my time. I'm going to take my time to heal myself and get back to the best that I can be. So my website, thank you for putting it up there, but right now it's say under construction, as is Brenda. Brenda is under construction. But I produce international and global events. So whether it's FIFA, Pan Am Games, World Junior Hockey, the Grey Cup, which is Canada's largest event, which is our version of the American Super Bowl. I've done the Junos, which is the Canadian version of the Grammys. And so, I'm that person behind the scenes telling the story for the live, the live story for the televised audience. But my background is sponsorship, logistics, and I think I'm a storyteller. I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I tell that story for the people watching from the screen at home, what's really going on, and cutting the camera and zooming in and getting the reaction of the people in the stands. And yeah, I think it's storytelling. It's logistics, and it's coordinating of multiple groups of people, from volunteers to teams to staff to all of that. But at the end of the day, we're telling a story.
Definitely. What does success mean to you?
Healthy mind, body, family. Success to me is finding that elusive balance and feeling fulfilled and living a rewarding life. Like success, I could be playing with kids at a childcare center and have so much joy in my life. And we all know childcare workers don't make millions of dollars. I would feel rewarded and joyful, and that's success. I don't need to have the biggest bank account. I don't need to travel the world. I want to. Plans are I want to travel the world. I don't need those things. Success to me is having raised, confident, empathetic, intelligent, and kind children, and to share joy. I think that we are all put on this earth to help each other. And success to me would be sharing the wisdom that you have and helping others and empowering others. That's what I find successful, is if you can share what you've learned with others and lift people up. That's success to me.
That's awesome. I want to take a moment to acknowledge those that are watching live. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and listening to Brenda's story and her journey over the past few years. I so appreciate you being here and sharing some of this. To close out, I'd like to ask you a question regarding the females that are in this community who are struggling with a major trauma in their life, physical or mental. What would be some advice that you'd give to somebody who's enduring some stuff right now?
I'm a firm believer in that females are natural nurturers. We want to care for others. So my advice would be to find your tribe, find your women, find those who will lift you up. Sometimes, not in my instance, I'm very, very blessed that my family is very supportive. But I do have instances where I have friends who are not close with their sisters or mothers or aunts. Sometimes the blood relative might not be the most supportive, but find and surround yourself with people who lift you up and support you unconditionally. And look inwards, look in the mirror and find, what are my shortcomings? What do I need to work on for myself? And then do the work. Like, read the books, go get the massage, do the self-care, go for the walk, save up the money and go travel and experience something that you haven't experienced. Life is way too short. I am going to tell you, I am so glad I'm on this side of the grass, because if my dog didn't drag me home that night, I don't know what would have happened.
Wow.
I really don't know. And so I don't take anything for granted. And my message would be that when life is this short, grab it.
Yeah.
Grab it and surround yourself with people who will lift you up. And listen to podcasts like this. Find inspiration.
Yeah.
And when you hear that one little nugget, don't just write it down and forget about it. Put it into action.
Yeah.
Put it into action.
Action
That would be my thoughts
I
on
love it. I love it. Definitely. And I agree with the action. That's one of the things that this podcast has inspired me to do. Because I view myself as a strong person mentally and emotionally. So it's very frustrating when I get these bouts of uncertainty that are rushing through my body. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is not correct. but I
We're all
haven't
still
been.
human though, right? We're all
Yeah,
still
and I
human.
haven't really challenged it though. And I think that's what I'm really pulling away from this podcast and you telling your story is I need to kind of push myself just a little bit more in the arena of physical, because that's where it is, it's physical, to regain that trust. I'm not trusting myself in that arena right now. So I have to practice that. So I so appreciate you breaking that down and helping me learn something this morning. So that was
You're
that
very welcome.
that was so awesome. Ralph, Dane, Shira, thank you so much for hanging out with us and commenting today, and everyone else who's still hanging on, listening. Thank you so much for relaxing with us. Here it's lunchtime, so hopefully we were joining you with a little sandwich or something. So this was enjoyable. But this has been great. Thank you so much, Brenda, for taking some time out of your busy day to hang out and tell your journey. For those of you that are watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay if you're watching this after the live so that we can see you and give you some love wherever you are. This community is ever expanding every single day, and it's filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their